I do a lot of activist-related work, but my conduit is through the arts, through writing and through photography. 2012 is when I moved to Uganda. I was there for a full year. And it was while I was there that I became acquainted with several Ugandan LGBT activists. A Ugandan friend of mine came out, and I don't know if you are aware of what has recently been going on in Uganda, but there was a lot of anti-gay legislation. So he was afraid of being imprisoned again, and consulted me for help trying to get out of the country. One of the most amazing things I witnessed was Uganda's first gay pride parade, which happened in 2012. I was there taking photographs for that. And this was at a time when the anti-homosexuality bill was pending. The Ugandan parliament was trying to pass this draconian law that would have further ostracized LGBT people, and it even called for the death penalty for certain acts at that point. And in spite of this, the Ugandan gay activists held their first Pride parade, and it was pretty well attended. I mean, it's nothing like Copenhagen, but there were, I think, something about 100 people who showed up, demonstrated in public, and finished the parade. And so it was very remarkable, because we have parades in Europe and we have parades in the United States, but they're pretty safe. Almost no one gets hurt. In fact, after the parade, the police did show up, and 7 of my friends were arrested. They weren't kept very long, but 2 of the transgender were beaten before they were released. So that would go toward the more negative. I never felt threatened in the village or in the city. As I became more involved with the LGBT activists, I would say then that's when I began to do a little more activity that could be considered risky because of the pending law. And at that point, I was a little more concerned, but I never felt any direct discrimination or fear. I did have friends who were threatened and beaten and arrested, but that didn't happen to me. And those are Ugandans I'm speaking of, not Westerners. You know, every society has homophobia. Even Denmark, even the United States, it's there. It's ignorance. Human ignorance is across the globe. We all have it to some degree. Anything that we're not aware of or experience inside ourselves and don't understand, we have a tendency not to accept at first. It's scary, it's unusual, it's gross, it's whatever. So starting with that, Ugandans are no different than Danes or Americans or Germans. In that respect. So Jacqueline, who is a woman, she's a human rights defender. Her organization was called Freedom and Rome Uganda. It started out as a group to support lesbians and protect actually the whole community, but it was more lesbian focused. And Kasia, I think Kasia's in Amsterdam right now. She's doing a lot of work. She was recently on the cover of Time Magazine Europe. You might have seen that one. She's won numerous awards for her human rights work. And she's told stories about being, when she first came out, because her family accepted her actually. When she came out, she was often, and she was vocal. She was recognized on the street, sometimes chased, sometimes beaten, sometimes kicked out of taxis. And so, but that only made her stronger and braver, and she's still doing her activism and advocacy work now. And there, my friend Cleo is a transgender woman, and she is a graduate student in, I think, genealogy or something, but she's also an activist and now is actually working full-time as an activist. She had to, when the law passed in Uganda, she had to leave Uganda. Now she lives in Nairobi, Kenya, where she does her activism work. I've focused my activism on bringing awareness to what's going on in the global south and regions where homophobia is great and anti-gay legislation is present. I've certainly never made less money than I have since I started doing this work. So, but that's not what it's about at all. There have been times when I felt like giving up. Certainly